There was a little confusion when we first got the topic about we're going to talk about today. Wasn't sure if we were going to be talking about seal coat prep or the seal coat program as a whole, but when the dust settled, it was all about seal coat prep, and I started thinking, man, how are we going to break this up so that Jason and I aren't kind of talking about the same thing? And the best thing we came up with is that as you get into your seal coat prep, it kind of goes into two phases. You have the phase that is, out in the field that I think a lot of people really focus on, the equipment and the actual operation itself. And that's what Jason's going to talk about. But I'm going to talk about a little bit of what we can do in the office, before we get out in the field that's going to help make your seal coat become a success. And so part of that was trying to come up with a catchy title, which I'm not a communications major. I'm an engineer, so I did not succeed in getting a catchy title, but I'm calling this Prepping to Prep. So the work that we do in the office ahead of going out in the field. And one of the things that you've heard several people talk about, I think Jason even has it in his part of his presentation, is that we have to start by selecting the right road. If we do the best seal coat prep that's ever been done in the history of man, it's not going to matter if we put it down on a road that really doesn't have any business being sealed. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. People talk, you look at traffic, I put some pictures of oil tankers, road use, ADT, percent trucks, how heavy loads and permits, things like that. They all kind of go into how we select the road to be seal coated. And what I put on the top is that it's got to start with the maintenance office. Now, Tomas talked about how they talk to their maintenance supervisors, they rank things, and it's very important the maintenance sections stay involved with the process. They know the roads, maybe sometimes better even than we do. They know what's going on. They know if there's a lot of oil activity hitting an area. They know if there's a lot of turning movements, and we have to keep them involved. I can guarantee you, if you've got a section supervisor that maybe doesn't, maybe they're new, there's somebody in that office that knows. Go to the safety meeting, talk to the crew, talk to the assistant. Either they live up on a road, they know somebody who lives there, they've got an aunt and uncle. Somebody in that section knows what's going on with that road, and it's just very important that we listen to them and we just take that into high consideration. I've, of course, put on there the different tools that we use as we select our seal coat roads. We have our surface age maps. That's a picture of one of ours that is not a condition score map, so the red and the orange, that's all okay on this kind of a map. But look at those things, look at your skids, look at what type of road you need to be seal coating. And then at the end of that, I put, don't forget to consider the workload. We can overload a section. If we go in and we say, okay, well, we're going to seal coat 150 miles in your section, good luck. You're asking for problems. One, they're probably not going to finish. If they do, the work that they're doing is probably not going to be very good. They're going to be rushed, more than likely going to be unsafe, and that's not what we want. So consider the workload each year as you develop your list. Think about the contracts that have already been talked about, spot-based repair contracts. If you're going to use those we've had a lot of success with those here in the Bryan District. Mill and inlay contracts, if you were going to do something like if you were to seal coat an entire hot mix section or something like that. So two things that you can definitely do in the office. Now, as you get into the day of the seal coat prep, you definitely have some things you want to consider, and obviously safety becomes the utmost importance. I would say most of you have probably seen the video that was released at the maintenance conference. If you haven't, then I would suggest that you go get the link and show it to anybody in the office, show it to the maintenance sections, the supervisors. It's a very good video that talks about what we do at the beginning of the day, they call it the play of the day, to get a section and to get a crew ready to do the work. And so a few of the things I'll talk about will repeat in that video, but a few won't. So The first thing I had on there is to be engaged. It's very important that as a section supervisor or as an assistant, anybody who's involved in that must be engaged in the meeting. It's not the time. You're talking about an operation that's a moving operation that can be dangerous to some extent. It's not the time to be checking phones, looking at texts, checking out the score of the game. We want everybody that's involved in that operation thinking about what they're doing and not distracted. And so put that on there to just re-emphasize that we want the crew fully engaged in the morning meeting. Google Earth, I threw that on there. It's a wonderful tool to have. It is not a one-stop shop. You can't put all of your faith in Google Earth, but it's great to get a literal 10,000-foot view of the work site you're going to be working at. You can look for things like oil pads, or you can look for things that are going to be heavy traffic generators, schools, things you're going to affect as you get into that, because all of those things are going to go into how do you set up an appropriate traffic control for the situation. That, of course, is going to change when you get out in the field, but use Google Earth, use the measurement tools, look how your flaggers are going to line up. It'll help you to determine how many flaggers and things like that you're going to even need. So it's a wonderful tool to use. And then part of that I put there at the end to discuss the equipment and discuss the tasks. And again, I don't want to, some of this seems watered down and very basic, but I think that's one of the keys to having a successful operation in the field is you've got to really break it down for the crew and make sure everybody understands. One of the things that we talked about yesterday in the meeting was turnover and the amount of people that we have that are new to the department, but also the number of people like me that are new to their position. They don't necessarily know what's going on with the operation, and so there's nothing wrong with breaking that operation down into all of its components and making sure that everybody understands what's going to be going on, making sure that everybody understands each individual task that they're going to have while they're out in the field. The more you talk about in the office, the better chance you have at success out in the field. All right. So then, of course, you can't go through any of this without talking about our traffic control. Traffic control is critical to having a successful operation. I can guarantee you, again, if you have the best road that's ever been prepared and it's ready to go, it wins all kinds of awards if they even made them. And you had somebody get hurt, or you had a piece of equipment damaged, and you lost your safety record because of that, no matter what, you're not going to consider that operation was successful. And so traffic control is just key in all of that. And so one of the things I put on there, it seems basic, but review the standard. A lot of offices will put, we don't have screens this big, but they put the standards on the big screen at the office. I've seen success in other offices of actually, even though we're in a digital age, just printing them out, handing them to everybody on the crew. Let them have them, let them highlight, let them take notes. Let them know that the entire crew is responsible for that traffic control setup, not just the crew chief or the maintenance supervisor that's out there. Everybody has a role in the traffic control. With your flagger stations, again, it seems basic, but as engineers, make sure that your supervisors and your crew chiefs know that they can rely on you for help with setting flagger stations. When you get into situations that you have a lot of horizontal and vertical curves, you start thinking about traffic cues and how things are going to back up over crests of hills. It's just really important that we provide that guidance and that help to help the person in the field lay those flagger stations out exactly so that we can know the safest place to put those. Message boards, it doesn't have to be a freeway, to get a message board. If you've got message boards, I'd suggest you use them. You can put them miles back from where you're working, get people to slow down, warn them about the work that's ahead. Again, internal TCP, something that we talk about a lot. Talk about specifically the order of the vehicles, who's going in, who's going out, what order are you going in and out in, where are you turning around. The basics are what matter. It's the things that'll save you from having an accident on the project. Name your spotters, the same thing. Specifically in the morning meeting, name who's going to be responsible for backing if it's required. And then I finally put on there the timeout. It's something that we hear a lot. We hear a lot of people say, call the timeout. Encourage the timeout. I can guarantee you, when you get out in the field, something's going to be different. When I was talking to Lance about this earlier last week, he'd said, yeah, what happens when you get out and there's a funeral? Well, stop, talk about it. Not everybody on the crew's not gonna, they're not gonna know, hey, this is what we do in this situation. Call the timeout, stop, make sure everybody knows their exact responsibility and what we're gonna do in any kind of situation. And then I would just say encourage everybody, no matter who they are, whether they are the new employee or the seasoned employee, make sure that everybody feels comfortable calling the timeout. And I purposely did not put questions slide on mine, so I'm leaving all that to Jason. So, okay, good, it didn't say that. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. So next up, we got Jason Dupree. Jason graduated from the University of Arkansas with a bachelor's and master's degrees in civil engineering. Got a really good football team, huh? Arkansas? About 10 years ago. Can UTEP get them on the schedule? They need help. He worked for a consulting firm in Northwest Arkansas for 2.5 years until joining TxDOT in 2002, and has spent the last 16 years in the Atlanta district, where he currently serves as Director of Maintenance. Come on up, Jason.
I always wondered what was back there. So I'm going to take a little diverge from the actual topic here to start out with safety. With the big push on system safety, there's something that we've implemented in the Atlanta district where we came up with a checklist for our designers. So whether it's an overlay or rehab or a seal coat, we want all of our designers to kind of go through this checklist to see if there's anything that needs to be improved on that roadway that could increase system safety. Does guardrail need to be upgraded, in treatments? And then the little highlighted area that I'm focused on, we're asking them to check with the maintenance sections, the supervisors, to find out if there's any known problem areas with safety or any other kind of recurring issue. I think it's going to help to get our designers more in contact with our maintenance sections to address the issues that need to be addressed. All right, so seal coat prep. As was mentioned by Ryan, if you're not prepping the right road, you're wasting your time. It's going to cost you more labor, more equipment, more material. And yes, I know y'all think there's a typo on that first line. The last word with you. I know it's supposed to be your, but I couldn't decide if it was R or apostrophe RE, so I just left it off. So somebody will tell me that later which one I should have used. So if you're out there and if you're blade patching 2, 3, 4 inches the entire length of the road, you're not spending your resources the way you should. Maybe you should be doing an overlay or a rehab or mill and inlay. There's some other treatment to that road that you should be doing besides prepping for a seal coat. You also want to prep at the right time. So you need to have your seal coats roads ready, selected to give your maintenance sections the right amount of time to get them prepped. The shorter time frame you give them, the more rushed they're going to be. You're not going to get as good quality job. The more time you give them, the better off everybody is. You also need to have time for your crack seal, your patches, all that stuff needs to cure out. If you're laying down a fresh blade-on patch right before the seal coat contractor comes in, you're not going to end up with a good project. Preferably, ideally, you want to get your roads finished, prepped the summer before. Not always possible. I think most people probably tell you 3 months minimum for patches to cure out. We really push for our guys to finish the summer before, but it doesn't always happen. And then sometimes after the winter, you got to go out there and touch up and make some spot repairs on anything that deteriorated over the winter. The other thing that we're trying to make a push for is right-of-way to right-of-way. You know, if we're going to seal coat a road, let's make it look like a new project when we're done. So let's look at overspray and herbicide. What kind of shapes our signs delineation in? Let's really make sure we get a good-looking finished product right-of-way to right-of-way. So as you're prepping, your maintenance supervisors are prepping. You know, they're focused on their maintenance section. That's the roads they're trying to get ready. They're prepping those roads. So you need your maintenance supervisor out riding those roads, making sure that his guys are doing an adequate job. The area engineer, you want them out riding the 1, 2, 3, how many of our maintenance sections are under that area office. You want them out riding, checking the quality of the prep work that's being done. Something that's kind of a new term we've had in various forms. We've had somebody fill in this role, but kind of the new term that's going around is a district seal coat specialist. In our district for a long time, it was a construction inspector, and he was our yearly inspector of our seal coat contracts. Well, over time, they develop a lot of expertise in the area of seal coats, and they also know what good prep work is and what not so good prep work is. So that's a good resource to go out and inspect the prep work so that nobody gets surprised when the seal coat contractor shows up and the road's not in any shape that it needs to be seal coated. Right now, the current individual we have that's kind of serving this role for us, we're actually getting him involved in even plan work, going out and getting quantities. Anyway, something new for us to have one person be that involved, but we're hoping it's going to work out for us to provide some consistency for seal coat prep and the finished product. And then, of course, your district staff, your maintenance administrator, your maintenance engineer, director of maintenance or operations, and your district engineer. All of those folks out riding the roads district-wide will help ensure that you're getting consistency throughout your maintenance sections, that your prep work is good quality prep work. And that's the main focus that we want, is it to be done well, but it also to be done consistent. So if you've got your everything's consistent, the finished product's going to be a good product. Here's where we delve off into the nuts and bolts, and everybody pretty much knows this. So even though the next presentation is not till 3:30, I won't keep y'all through your break or even until 3 probably. No particular order necessarily to this, either importance or time frame. I just kind of threw some items out there that are the big items that we take care of. And again, of all of these items, really focus on right-of-way to right-of-way. So drainage. You don't want your side ditches holding water. Water will eat up a pavement. So you don't want your ditches holding water, and you also don't want high edges that's trapping water on the pavement itself. So make sure you take care of that as you're prepping for a seal coat road. Crack sealing's been mentioned a few times. We really shoot for crack sealing year 1 for roads that are sealed year 2. So if we get our roads crack sealed in December or January of year 1, then May to September of year 2, that gives us about 18 months to let the crack sealing material cure out. Shoulders and edges, we can repair drop-offs, fix high shoulders. You can also repair your broken edges if you've got any. It's a good time when you're out there to go ahead and repair or construct mailbox turnouts if you need them. And then if you want to or need to, you can take advantage of this time to widen the road. And then it'll all get covered up with a new seal coat in short order, and it'll make for a good project. You need to make sure you get all your base failures fixed, obviously. So dig out base failures, rework the base, replace with new base if you need to, add cement, or if you're in a bind and need to get in and out quick, you can go with full depth hot mix to fill in the hole. If you got considerable areas that are base failure repaired, you can come over the top with a blade patch, either LRA or hot mix, or do a spot seal to kind of seal off those areas until hopefully the next year when the seal coat contract comes through. The biggest item, probably the most expensive and the most time consuming, is fixing ride and cross slope. At least in the Atlanta district, most of our fixes are blade overlays with LRA or hot mix. If you got severe rutting or other distresses, you know, we have a mill and inlay crew, and then we also have a call-out mill and inlay contract that we can use to repair those areas. But for the most part, we're blade-on patching. Obviously, when we're blading on, we're using a motor grader. There's just kind of a picture of before and after. You really, to have a successfully prepped road, that guy on the blade's really got to be top notch. You can improve a ride with the blade patch if you know what you're doing. You can also screw one up if they don't know what they're doing. So that's a good benefit for a section, is have somebody on the blade that knows how to lay a patch. There's just another kind of before and after picture. When you're doing blade patches and mill and inlay too, if you take out your stripe, you've got to make sure you got the right signs in place. So when you blade on something like LRA, you actually create a little bit of a hazard with the loose gravel. So it's really our responsibility to warn the traveling public of that potential hazard. If you cover up the center stripe, same thing. We need to warn those folks. So you need to make sure you have the right signs out there, and you need to make sure you keep them out there until the hazard's no longer in place. So give that patch some time to all the loose rocks to get off the road. Go out there and re-sweep it if you need to. Make sure your signs are out there until that's done. Herbicide, of course, you want to spray your edges to keep grass off the pavement itself, but you also want to overspray your right-of-way. Try to get the best looking right-of-way that you can. As I mentioned, signs and delineation. You know, you go out there and seal coat the road and you got a great looking seal coat and everything looks good, but the signs are all leaning or dirty or tore up or whatever the problem is. It's really kind of a downer on a new looking pavement. So make sure you get all that stuff cleaned up. Yeah, I already said that. So just kind of in closing, the main thing we're shooting for is being consistent, having a good quality work, being consistent. Of course, Ben Franklin says, by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. And then some other little fancy quotes there. And if you got any questions, Ryan will be happy to come back up and answer them. So I'll repeat the question, he'll answer them.